Hello, everyone. It's Ryan Scott here again. I'm the lead columnist for D3Hoops.com, and joining me today is the 2016 Jostens Trophy winner, Trey Bardsley from Nebraska Wesleyan University. Thanks for taking some time, Trey.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
Um, well, let's get started with where you are now. If I believe, computer science teacher in a high school, is that correct?
Yep, I'm at Auburn High School, middle school. We have a combined school here, and I teach half computer science and half PE.
All right. So both appropriate, I believe, given your interests and education and everything. So that's pretty cool. But one of the reasons we're talking to you, not just to obviously talk about your teaching career, but you've been able to continue playing basketball. Do we want to say you're now 32, 33? How old are you?
32, 32.
32. All right. You've been able to continue playing basketball at a really high level for all of this time. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about all of the journey. But let's go back right to the beginning. Your last year at Nebraska Wesleyan was the last year that NWU was playing the full NAIA schedule,
Yeah,
transitioned over to the ARC where they are now the year after you graduated. So when this whole Jostens Trophy thing came up, when they mentioned it to you, did you have any clue what it was? What was your relationship to D3 at that point at all?
yeah. We played a predominantly NAIA schedule, like you said. We played a few Division III teams. At the time, Wesleyan was a little bit unique with being dual affiliated, so I didn't know much about the Jostens Trophy. I was more focused on, the NAIA side of things. At the national tournament, we played NAIA, so I didn't know much about it.
And the school does most of the work, so it's not like until they told you you won and you had to go to Virginia, like you probably didn't even have that much to do with it.
No, I know shoot, it might have been when I won or maybe I was a finalist for it. I know they reached out and talked about making like a video for it, but that's the extent. I didn't, have to apply or I didn't do anything for it. They took care of all the work.
And I remember being there in Salem when you were there, and there was a lot of people like, who is this guy? Like we don't know who he is. For people who didn't know, you scored 29 points a game your senior year. You were shooting something like 47, 48% from three. Trey's an incredible 3-point shooter, which is one of the reasons he's been able to continue um, on through all of this. Um, how did you transition from there? Did you try to go play in Europe? I know that you played for the Washington Generals for a little bit. What was the path after that? Were you looking for opportunities?
Yeah, probably midway through my senior year, I knew that I wanted to go play somewhere at the next level. I didn't, entirely know what that meant. My thoughts were go play in Europe. That's, kind of what I've heard, go play overseas somewhere. I'm not making it to the NBA, so that's probably the most likely scenario. So I was, like reaching out to agents, trying to find a fit with one and kind of just see what my options were. And kind of about that time, the Washington Generals Harlem Globetrotters organization had reached out to me and wanted me to come do a tryout with them. And, I knew who they were, but didn't know much about, what they did or what that would be like. But I went out there and had a really good experience and just kind of seemed like something I wanted to do. So it was a good fit for me at the time. And it was kind of a spur of the moment. Someone from Dakota Wesleyan, actually, that had ties from there had ties with the Globetrotters organization and had given them my name. So that's how I kind of got with it.
I talked to Darnell Artis a little bit earlier this year. He was a Globetrotter for a long time. I guess technically still is. He's now the head coach at Gwinnett Mercy in Pennsylvania. So I got a little bit from that side of things. For the Generals, do you have like were there a set team that went out the way that the Globetrotters do, or did you get called in sort of whenever you could fit that schedule? How did that work?
Yeah, so it's kind of a set team. We were under the Globetrotters umbrella, separate team, but
Right.
um, with them, and we were predominantly travel and tour around, kind of like the traveling circus of basketball, and so we had expectations to follow of when you're supposed to be somewhere. We traveled to a ton of different cities, states, countries, so it was very organized.
So we have the question that everyone's going to want to ask, having been a general. Did you throw those games, or were you trying to win them every night?
Man, I'm trying to win games. If you watch a game, it seems like, they may be paying the referees or something, but if we don't score with them, there we got blown out a lot. So, I'm trying to score. That was, we got close a few times, but could never come out on top.
Yeah. At that point, do you have a day job at that point? You're doing this on the side. Was that pretty much full time for a while? How did that work?
Yeah, so I did that my first year right out of college. I guess you would say that was my main job. But we'd travel for maybe 4 months at a time. That was the big US circuit that we went on. And then when I'd be back home, I would do a lot of help run summer camps for basketball. And then I kind of figured out that I wanted to go into teaching and coaching afterwards. So, during the school year, I could be a substitute teacher. So it actually worked out very well with my schedule. When I was home, I could substitute teach, and when I was, needed to go on the road with the Globetrotters organization, I had a lot of freedom to go do that.
So at what point did you decide, all right, I need to actually have some benefits here and get like a job teaching? When did you make that transition?
That's a great question. COVID started up, and the Globetrotters are, you need entertainment for the fans. And so when COVID started, that was kind of the transition period for me. I thought to myself, if I can find a teaching job and coaching job that I want, I'll transition there. And if I didn't, I would, wait around and just substitute and find and keep going with the Globetrotters. So that was that COVID. I think it was might have been 2021 is when I stopped for sure with the Globetrotters.
And also you're one of our US elite 3x3 basketball players now, and that's something that's an emerging sport. Obviously, it's been in the Olympics recently. How did you get hooked up with 3x3 and start playing that way?
Yeah, that's another interesting story. I was about the same time I transitioned away from the Washington Generals. A guy from California named Michael Ranovics was really big in 3x3 in the US. At the time, 5 years ago, it's not many people play it. Even today, not a ton of people do it, but he's from California, moved to Omaha, and a really good team at the time was Princeton 3x3. They ran a lot of that traditional Princeton backdoor stuff, and that's what we ran at Wesleyan. So he had, was kind of reaching out to some coaches,
Right.
seeing who would be good fits for this type of sport, and reached out to my coach Dale Wellman, and he gave Michael my name and had a meeting with him, and it seemed like a good fit, and it sounded like a crazy different kind of basketball, but it was great for me. So I started doing that and really fell in love with it.
And I've done a little bit of research in this. We wrote a 3x3 piece, a year or so ago when the team from Trinity, Texas was involved in it. How has this grown? It seems like now there's a full-on league that you're participating in on a pretty regular basis. At first, it was kind of just getting called into national team camps, right? How has that 3x3 evolved as you've been a part of it?
Yeah, it started as an Olympic sport in 2020 that year. And at the time, the U.S. didn't qualify for it, and not a lot of teams did it. It's really popular over in Europe and Asia, and it's starting to gain some traction in the U.S. now. Like USA Basketball has some national teams when they go to national events, but now they're actually having teams that are on the world tour, is what they call it. Tournaments, high level tournaments all over the world. The hard part is none of those tournaments are in the United States very, very often. So, you got to have a budget to get over there a little bit. So it's not, a regular person that wants to try it. It's hard for them to get into the sport. We got to front up some money to make it happen.
But you've still been participating in all this. How does that work with your teaching schedule? Are they generous with some time off? Is it mostly in the summers? How do you make that work?
Yeah, so the typical schedule, the World Tour season of 3x3 goes, late April, early May, and then it goes all the way to about November. So the summer months is kind of the beginning where there's a lot of stuff, and so obviously that works for me being a teacher. And then into the fall though, my administration's been great. They allow me time off when I need it. Um, and some of it's been quite a few days, so they work with me really well, and I take care of my stuff of what I need done at the school before I go on the trips, and it's a little bit like a vacation, but a little bit of work too, so they're really good about allowing me to do it.
And I know you mentioned there's a decent amount of cost involved in this. You've got a team together. Or do you have like an owner that's managing this sort of thing? I know there's a little bit of prize money involved. Like, does this become a going concern at this point? Is there any way to make any money out of this, or not quite yet?
Yeah, so that's the goal. The last couple of years, I've played for USA Basketball's organization, so I played for them, putting a team together. The goal for that is to make it a full-time thing. Give a salary and make it, livable. The last couple of years, it's kind of been, have a day job and then make a little bit of money playing in these tournaments also. But all the other teams on the tour from overseas, that's their full-time job. They make good money doing it, and it's starting to lean that direction in the US too.
It's got to be kind of cool being a part of like an emerging sport this way. You think about, all the stories we have from, the NBA in like the 40s when the guys were doing that same sort of thing. You get to be a part of this in something that I'm sure will take off eventually, right? As long as the traction is there. It's got to be pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really cool to be, I'm kind of right at the beginning of it. I really do think it's going to take off in the US here pretty soon. The Olympics in 28 are in LA. So I know, just being connected with the USA Basketball organization, I know they've got some players that want to get involved with it. The other thing that's cool is the 2024 Olympics. Our 3-on-3 team made it for the men's and women's, and one of my teammates is on the Olympic team. Um, and so just being around those guys, I'm playing at a high level in the US. And so it's good to see, it emerging, and it's going to keep getting bigger.
How have you adapted your game? I know 3x3, you don't see a lot of 5'10" guys typically because you got to be able to guard all the way around. Being a shooter, I'm sure that helps. How have you kind of managed to fit in with what is generally a much bigger sport?
Yeah. I think the key thing is the 3-point lines. So for those of you that don't know about, the scoring, it's ones and twos. So the 3-point shot, counts as two, and it's double the points of one. So if my specialty is shooting 2-pointers, so if I can, make those, we're giving up the 1-pointers, and if I can get 2-pointers, it works out to our advantage.
Um, you look back on college, this Jostens experience. You got a chance, one of the first from your school to kind of jump into D3. You were there for the Final Four weekend. I think you got to play. We had the All-Star game going by then, right? You were able to play in that.
Yep.
What was that experience like for you, just as a basketball player, to be able to see kind of what Nebraska Wesleyan was getting into as they were transitioning?
Yeah, it was a great experience. I got to, fly down to Virginia, down in Salem, correct? Is that right?
Yeah.
At the time. And so I got to watch the Final Four games, and then the All-Star game was a great experience. A lot of people don't know, like, there's a lot of high-level players that aren't playing Division I. So, there's really good talent, and it's good to see some of the schools from just all over the country that I normally wouldn't have.
I know when I've talked to some of the 3x3 folks before, they've targeted Division III as a place to look for players, right? Guys who aren't necessarily trying to get into the NBA. If we've got some guys who are finishing up school now and want to look at this as an option to be a part of, what would you some advice be on how to get involved and where to go to look into that?
Yeah. The high level tournaments, like I said, there's not a ton in the US, but there's local tournaments, a lot over the around the US. So starting with those, just get a feel for the game. And, if you start winning some of those tournaments, you start getting invited to, higher level tournaments, and that's where you can really get seen. So just doing well at those, and, expanding your game a little bit.
And I know at the high level tournaments, you have to earn both team and individual points to qualify for things. We don't need to go into all the details for that. But does that work lower down? Like, are there lower level points that you can get to move up, or how does that just really just get noticed by winning?
Yep. So, all the high level tournaments, it's kind of a tier system. Like, you need to win this tournament to get invited here, and then win that one to get invited here. So it's a little bit tough to break into it. Um, but I know the US has some qualifiers that will get you into that next tier of, world tour. It's a challenger level, but um, that's kind of the way to get into it. I think there's a lot of local people playing, but um, I think you really got to start winning some of those to get invited to bigger ones to get noticed.
Yeah. So if you're a D3 player out there, grab some teammates and find a local tournament and just get started playing. I'm sure that that's not that hard to do, especially if you can do it while having a day job and build your way up there and be a part of this emerging sport. Um, how do you see all of this playing into your teaching and your coaching that you're doing there at the high school? How has this both your college time and your pro career benefited what you can do there at the school?
Oh, it's been really good. coaching high school basketball, it's a little bit lower level, than playing, in college or professional, but just being able to teach them the little things that, you might not notice if you're, haven't played at a really high level. So just the little details on, how you set a screen, how you read screens. So just being able to play as a player, I can, relate to my team a little bit and give them little, cues here and there of what to look for. And, coming off a pick and roll, especially with 3-on-3, the floor is so spread out with only three guys out there that there's a lot of, it's more detailed on how you do things versus, you know, versus a 5-on-5 game where you can make more mistakes.
And how long did it take before word got around that you were actually a hooper when you showed up there at school? Like how many open gyms did you have to dominate in before the guys realized that you were someone to listen to?
Yeah, good question. I think some of the guys kind of knew a little bit who I was. My high school coach is the head coach. I'm an assistant. So I think he's told stories about me a little bit. And so then when I got there, I'd play open gym with them a little bit. And I think right away they realized, oh, this guy can play a little bit. And they picked my brain a little bit about different things. So I think it didn't take very long for them to want to listen.
Yeah, we had a chemistry teacher when I was in high school who came, right out of college and had been a pretty good player and schooled us quite a bit at open gym the first few nights. And you realize, oh, this guy's not just a chemistry teacher. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for making some time. Congratulations. I'm just going to do a piece on the Jostens Trophy in general. The nomination period is open right now. So we want to make sure we encourage as many schools as possible to nominate folks and just trying to catch up with a few of our previous winners to show what they're doing and where they go after D3. And so anybody watching, you can get into teaching and coaching, and you can also keep a career going if you have the work ethic. I forgot to ask the one question: how do you keep in shape? My wife is a teacher. I know how much time it takes to do all of these things. If you're coaching on top of that, how are you getting in the kind of work you need to play at a professional level here?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm a big morning workout person. So I get up early and get my workout in before the school day starts because I know if I ever wait until after school, my energy level or my motivation is not there. So I make sure to get it in early.
And just for anyone wondering, you're a shooter. You're 32 years old. You have a full-time job. How many shots are you trying to get up every single day still?
Uh, Not as many as I did when I had more time, but every morning I'll shoot. Will warm up and I'll get 100 threes up. I always record it every day and then I shoot free throws. So it's a quick thing, but I try and get 100 to 150 shots up about every day.
All right, there you go, folks. We got a whole bunch of advice here and a great avenue and pathway to pursue after you've finished your D3 experience. I just want to thank you, Trey, for taking some time, and best of luck going forward. Hopefully, we can see you in some more venues and get some better exposure for 3x3.
You bet. Thank you. I appreciate you guys having me.